is, because we really want to make this more conversational and talk about things that you guys are interested in. So I think we're going to start with a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, so I guess I get the honor of introducing Kimberly Newell. I don't know if you guys know, she's kind of a big deal. She just got back in February. Yeah, came back in February, playing for Team China at the 2022 Beijing Olympics. Prior to that, she's been playing for the Contender hockey organization, which is a team based out of China. For the first year, it was we were playing in CWHL. Kim and I were teammates, and then the last 3 seasons have been in the Russian league, basically. We also played together there. In 2020, she was named to the WHL All-Star team, which is a pretty high honor there. There's some really good goaltenders in the Russian league. During the Olympics, actually, she had the best save percentage in the entire tournament. So, 9.55 save percentage is not bad. Prior to that, she was at Princeton. She is currently the all-time winningest ice hockey goalie at Princeton. She's got the all-time most career saves. She's got the second all-time most career saves in ECAC history. 2015, 2016 Ivy League champion. She's done a lot of things in her career in a very short amount of time. And super lucky to call her a teammate and a friend.
So this is Melanie Ju. She played with me when we won the WHL championship in 2020. So we won the entire league right before COVID hit, and we actually had to fly out immediately after winning the 3rd game, and the borders shut the day after.
The best of 5 series, and if we would have not swept the series, we would have been stuck in Russia.
Right before the 3rd game, we're like, we have to win this game so we can make it out of here. And we did, so it all worked out. So she attended Cornell before playing for KRS for 5 years. She attended Cornell University, was named to the Athletic Hall of Fame. She is a NCAA finalist, ECAC champion, Ivy League champion, 2-time Ivy League All-Star. She's also named as an All-American for field hockey, played both sports in college, both ice hockey and field hockey. And she's represented Team Canada for ball hockey in the World Championships and won 2 times. She's had an extensive coaching career, having coached for over 20 years, and most recently attended the World Championships with Team China as the assistant coach. They won that tournament.
Yeah, first time China's been promoted to Group A since 2010, I believe. They've been in Group B for the last.
So next year, China will be competing in Group A, which is 1 division lower than the top. She coached Division 1 in the NCAA. Very knowledgeable resource, and I encourage you all to ask her lots of questions. We'll start with Mel. Can you tell everyone how you got into hockey, what your sort of minor hockey journey looked like?
Yeah, so I started skating when I was 3 years old. Started playing hockey when I was 5. Luckily, I got to play for some pretty good coaches when I was younger. I went through the ranks. I played Richmond minor hockey for my entire career, and then I affiliated with the Steelers occasionally in my grade 8 through 12 years, and then I also was fortunate enough to play for Team BC for 4 years. So that's kind of where I got my college exposure. Got looked at. I was offered a position, scholarships from every team in the NCAA except for 2, and I got the choice to luckily play for Cornell University. Went to school there. I got a major in, I double majored in marketing and business strategy, and 2 courses shy of pre-med. So that's kind of my hockey journey and where it sort of led me. I think I owe a lot to my hockey career, to the kind of person that I am today.
What happened after Cornell? Did you play, or?
So actually, I was done. So the female game at that time, because I'm old, is there wasn't really a pathway for the females after that, and I finished playing hockey, and I actually got a marketing job for the Richmond Olympic Oval, where the 2010 Olympics were held, and was doing that for a year. I was actually coaching at the Richmond Ravens. I coached the Richmond Ravens Bantam A team in 2011, and really kind of fell in love with coaching. And I asked my coach at Cornell if he had any recommendations for, any teams that were looking for like a serious professional coach kind of thing. And I was offered a job at Pursuit of Excellence, which is now Rink Hockey. So I was coaching there for 3 years, and while I was there, I helped develop almost 60 players, and I have a 100% graduation rate to both youth sport and NCAA. So yeah, I got to work with a lot of really great players. I don't know if you've heard of some of them, but like Sarah Potomac, I worked with her for a couple of years, Whitney Dove, Allie Larson, a whole plethora of a lot of the best hockey players in BC at that time. So got to do that, and then Lindenwood University and Colgate University actually both reached out to me to become assistant coach there. And at that time, I am a person that loves to build programs, and Lindenwood had just transitioned from being a club program to a Division I program, and I saw a lot of opportunity there for me to step in and get a lot of experience. So I coached at Lindenwood for 2 years, and then I got a call from Hockey China to ask to coach their U18 program, and then when they found out that I still was able to play, they asked me to play. So I've had a bit of a circuitous route, but I've been playing pro hockey for the last 4 years, and now I'm back coaching in BC, and I'll be coaching the Vancouver Comets this upcoming season.
What do you know now that you wish you knew earlier?
I wish that I took in the moments a little bit more when I was a kid. I think when you are playing hockey at your level, when you're young, it's great. You're in it, you're playing, and it's fun. And it's it's the game. But I think there comes to an age for the boys when you're about 13, 14, 15, and for the girls probably more when you're 15, 16, 17, where you start thinking about, okay, I want to play college hockey, or I want to play at the Olympics, or I want to do this stuff, and it becomes more about those goals, and you forget a little bit about the process. And I think I wish I knew back then to soak in those moments a little bit more and to take my time with it, because I will get to where I need to get to if I put the work in, but not to lose sight of what I'm doing day to day, to focus on, trying to get to the end result. So I think that's one of the biggest things. What about you? What do you think?
We'll talk about this, about my journey, but I actually graduated from high school year early and went to Princeton when I was only 16. And I think that, when you're growing up and there's a lot of pressures to kind of excel and to be competitive, that you often want to get somewhere as quickly as possible. Kind of bouncing off what Mel was saying about enjoying that whole process, that it's not so much about getting there as being prepared when you get there and trying to really make the most of every situation that you put in. I had a successful career at Princeton, but I think I would have enjoyed it more and gotten more out of it as a person if I had kind of taken my time more and not been in such a rush to think that I needed to kind of achieve these goals and get there as quickly as possible. So I think when you're thinking about kind of where you're at, just making the most of the opportunities and the positions that you're in, so that as you look at potential future paths, that you know that if you put in the work and you're passionate about it, and you're going through that process, that you're going to get to where you need to go.
No point in getting to the final destination if you're not happy when you get there. Exactly. Or you're not proud of the person that you have become on the way to get there. Let's hear a little bit about your journey, Kimbo.
Okay.
So, how did you get started in hockey?
So I have an older brother, and actually my parents threw him in hockey when he was really young. So I kind of grew up in the rink. So I was on the ice when I was like 2 or 3, in the gear, playing hockey when I was 4 or 5. But it wasn't until a few years later when I was waiting for my brother. He was practicing on the other rink, actually here at BBC. I saw a goalie camp on the rink right next door. And I was watching, and something about like the gear and just the techniques they were using, I was just like fascinated. Literally in that moment, I was like, I have to be a goalie. And so I started begging my parents at every opportunity. I was like, Mom, please let me be a goalie. Get me some goalie gear. There was one time we were at the hockey shop. They were buying a stick for my brother. And I'm off in the goalie section looking at all the goalie gear. And so I'm like, okay, maybe this is my chance. So I go to my mom, I'm like, Mom, does your credit card work for the goalie gear? And she goes, nope, doesn't work. But eventually they relented. I got my shot to, put on the pads, and just
good decision. It was a good decision.
So that's how I got started as a goalie, and it just so happened that I think I progressed pretty quickly those first few years and became very competitive. And I spent almost all of my minor hockey career here at BWC sometimes on the B team, sometimes on the AAA team. It really helped my development to be playing against the best. At that time I was playing boys hockey, boys players in the area. Because I had kind of the option to graduate a year early with high school, I've been ahead in a couple courses and had done some summer classes. Our thinking was that as a goalie, not all universities have spots open every single year, right? They either take 2 or 3 goalies. So the opportunities to kind of go to the school that you want to go to is a little bit trickier, since one year they may need a goalie and another year they do not. And so having that option to graduate a year early opened up the options for me. And it just so happened that Princeton really needed a goalie that year. They had just lost their starter, and they wanted me to come in, be the starter from my first year, and obviously being a top Ivy League school and education being super important in our family, we made the decision to pursue that path. And so I ended up going, like I mentioned, to Princeton when I was 16 years old, which is a little bit young to be honest. Had a great career there. We started out as kind of like a middle to middle bottom team my first year. Year by year, we started to move up the ranks, and I think it was really cool being a part of that and seeing our team develop over those years until my final year. We were able to beat Cornell for that Ivy League championship.
Did we beat Harvard to get to the championship? Because Princeton was so bad at the time, we didn't even have to
Okay, fair enough. That was kind of my college career. When I was graduating, I had to move because while it wasn't quite as bad as when Mel was graduating, there still wasn't many options to play professionally. And having gone to an Ivy League school and I had a job lined up in finance, I kind of had to think, well, did I want to keep playing hockey or did I want to pursue this career? And so having prioritized my education, I felt that the best decision for me at that time was to move on from hockey and to start working. As fate would have it, unexpectedly, I got a call 2 years later. It's the head coach from Kunlun Red Stars asking me to come be the goalie for the first ever Chinese professional team. And not just that, but there's a chance to be on the national team, on Team China, and go to the Olympics. And so I was like, wow, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's not just about the hockey anymore. It's about connecting to my Chinese heritage and going and living in China. And I've taken 3 years of Chinese in school, so this is a great opportunity for me to continue to work on my language skills and really reconnect with that part of my heritage. I was like, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to go and pursue this opportunity. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years, all the way leading up to this past February, which, as you all know, was the Olympics. It's been a long journey, and I would say the biggest challenge for me was 2.5 months before the start of the Olympics. I actually broke my ankle. I have a big scar on my left ankle as proof. It was completely unexpected. We weren't even on the ice. We were working out at the hotel. We actually played hacky sack. This is at the end of a long training session. We were all tired. We wanted to do something fun, so we're playing hacky sack. And I jump and I fall, and it's a freak accident, and I end up breaking my ankle. In that situation, I think anyone would think the worst, that there's no way to make it back. Only have 2.5 months, and it's broken clean through.
This is a really cool story because it really speaks to the resilience of somebody. Really defy odds. You break a bone, that is easily like a 3-month, 4-month kind of process. And you broke it at the end of November.
Yeah. So
November, and the Olympics were beginning of February.
Yeah.
So that is like a very, very tight timeline.
I think most people didn't think I was going to make it back. Usually, a break like that takes 3 months to get back on the ice, and the Olympics are starting in 2.5 months. It was a stressful time from all the things I've learned over the years, and just about mindset and also just like believing in yourself. Like I think as athletes, a lot of times Like, we're pushing ourselves to do things that most people don't think are possible. When I saw that x-ray and my bone was completely broken through, my first thought was, okay, I need to find a surgeon. Although it was obviously upsetting, I think that in many ways, like, all of my experiences up to that point helped me to not be overwhelmed by just the negativity of the situation and being upset or frustrated or angry at what had happened, but rather to just, you know what, it happened, and like, I just need to accept that and just figure out what I need to do from here on out and make that happen. And so I called around and was super, super lucky to be put in touch with a surgeon in Minnesota, who actually happened to be one of the top foot and ankle surgeons in the world. He messaged me back and was like, I can see you in surgery tomorrow, which is unreal because this guy has a year waiting list. I was like, great, but I need to fly there from Russia first. So I fly in, get my surgery done, and that starts the clock for my recovery. And the amazing thing about this guy is he's really pushing the envelope. Usually, like I said, it takes 3 months. He told me, you're going to be back on the ice in 4 to 6 weeks. And I was like, I don't even know how that's possible, but we're going to go do that. And so for the next 7 weeks, I was there in Minnesota, recovering from the surgery, and then going through intensive rehab. And it was a balancing act between pushing it and allowing it that space to heal. And at 5 weeks, I was on the ice again. And it hurt, but I pushed through that and managed to get back to a decent playing shape before rejoining my team in China, because they had flown to China ahead of time. So I joined them there later on and had to do a 9-day quarantine right before going into the Olympic Village. So it was a very stressful time for me. I just remember thinking, I haven't been in a single game for 2.5 months. I've been quarantining for 9 days, so I haven't even been on the ice. And we have 2 team practices before our first game. This was probably the least ideal situation to be going into the biggest event of my life. There were a lot of nerves and doubts and worries, and I think one thing that really helped me to kind of calm all of that going into that first game was just knowing that wherever I'm at, I'm going to do the best that I can. I think a lot of times we put pressure on ourselves to play like, oh, I know I can play this well, without realizing that's actually your very best game. And by definition, it's your best game because you're not going to play that well every single game. You're going to aspire to that, right? We can't compare ourselves to that because, you know, every situation is different. Every single game will have new challenges. We have to take where we're at right now and just make the best of that and not worry or stress about, well, I should be playing this well, or I'm afraid that I'm going to play this badly. And so that really put me into the moment, and getting into the zone, into a flow state, you have to be present and in the moment. And so while I was still nervous, a lot of that became more about just what a big stage it was and how high the level of hockey was playing against all of those other national teams. And it was just really cool. I think one of the coolest things about the experience was seeing how everyone raised their level, that because it was on the world stage, I felt like all of my teammates and all the teams that we played against, like every shift mattered, every shot mattered. And so people were bringing like the highest intensity they could to every single moment. And that just made the hockey so much more fun. I think that anyone who has a competitive spirit, like that's what makes the game exciting and fun to play and be a part of. And so yeah, so I'm just super grateful that everything worked out in the end, and that, you know, I think I was thinking in my head, best case scenario, I would make it back and just be able to play. But the fact that I was able to make it, not just make it back, but perform, and I think even if I hadn't broken my ankle, that I would have been more than happy with how I was able to perform in those games, especially against Denmark and Japan in the shootout against Japan, winning those games. So yeah, so it was definitely a highlight of my career so far.
what have you learned in your pro career that you wish you knew when you were playing in college?
In college, yeah. I would say that when I was younger, I used to think that goaltending was very linear in the sense that like there was a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And the way that I was taught was what I thought was the right way. And so throughout like minor hockey in college, I had this idea in my head that I had to play a certain way. And I think when I started playing pro hockey, and you really have to be more engaged with your own learning process if you want to get better, right? Like I think when we're younger, a lot of times it's like the coaches are kind of dictating to you, telling you what you need to work on, giving you the feedback. But as you get older, a lot of that needs to be self-driven. And so you need to be very aware of what it is that you need to work on, how it is that you're doing, how you're managing your entry levels, how you're managing your day-to-day, and what it is that you're striving to improve on. And so what I learned was that it's really important to explore different options. And saying that there's no right or wrong isn't quite accurate. What it is, it's that there are better ways to do things and there are worse ways to do things. But there's not just one way to do it better. So when you explore your options, you start to discover, oh wow, like I don't just have to use this technique in this situation. I actually have options. And what are the pros and cons of that? And understanding how that changes depending on the situation. And so you start to become more adaptable. So if one thing doesn't work, you have other options that you can use. While that can sound quite general, it really starts to show in games where it's really a battle of, who can kind of outsmart or outfake or just out-strategize the other team. And as a goalie, we're constantly battling with the players. Like, I'm trying to understand how the players are going to score or what they're looking for. And they're trying to understand what holes goalies are leaving open or what the weak spots are. And so, in that sense, it's a bit of a battle of arms.
I think for me, the biggest thing that I learned was A, self-awareness, and B, how important my mental game is to my performance. I think as a young player, we get very sucked into the skills, and we neglect how much our brain, both on a cognitive and an emotional level, make us who we are as hockey players. You can have the most advanced skill set in the entire world, but if you have any doubt, or you don't believe in your ability, or you feel like your coach doesn't trust you on the ice, it doesn't matter. You will not perform to the best of your ability. So I think one of the biggest things for me was I got actually hired a mental skills coach who works with a lot of championship league teams and premiership teams in the MLS and in Europe for a lot of the soccer teams. And one of the biggest things that I took away, especially playing pro hockey, everyone thinks it's super glamorous, and it is great. Don't get me wrong. We get to play pro hockey. It's a game. We get to play that for our job. But there are a lot of stresses that come with it, and your performance is your paycheck. And being in a sport like hockey, where everything you have very little control over your situation, the only thing you can control is how you react to those situations or how you are prepared for those situations. I think we forget as young athletes. So I wish I knew that earlier, and I think I would have been a much better player faster. And I think one of the other things, just to go off on a little tangent, is understanding how to learn. I think, again, as athletes in hockey when we're young, we are dictated to. A coach draws a drill on the board, do this. This is the system we're playing. This is how you play defense. This is how you play forward. And we're like, yeah, I want to get better, so I'm going to listen to the coaches. I'm going to do exactly what they say. But we very seldom take the time to reflect and be like, okay, but why? Why are we doing these things? How does this make sense? Where does this drill fit into the game? And how can I utilize that to make myself better? Are you able to, if you're learning a new skill, instead of just doing the same thing 1,800 times, start to be able to break it down and learn, okay, this is the part where I'm having a hard time with my shot. it's my follow through. So I'm gonna just work on just the follow through, and learning how to learn so that you can get more information quicker is something that I learned way too late in my career, and something that I stress to young athletes to figure out how to do. That and my mental side of the game are two of the biggest things that I would say I wish I could earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the chapter for us?
Why don't we open it up? Do you guys have any questions? Yes.
What's your favorite part about hockey?
Favorite part about hockey?
I love teamwork. Part of hockey. I love the sport and what it does for me as a person, right? And it sounds a little bit selfish, but it's more so I get to bring my best every game. I get to learn something new. I get to work with other people and see how they work and how do I make them better and how do they make me better. That would be my favorite part about hockey.
I think for me, I really enjoy that feeling of being in the zone. I think that I'm a very competitive person because that brings out the best of people a lot of times, and I think that in that game, when you're really focused, I've had moments where I've made, a big save, and I legitimately don't know how I did it, because that's how focused you are, and it's a rare moment when you can get out of your own head. Like, we have so many thoughts. I think they say you have a new thought pretty much every second or every 2 seconds. So throughout the course of the day, that's a lot of thoughts. But when you're playing and you're in the zone, all those thoughts go away, and all you're doing is you're just in that experience. And I think that's for me where the fun comes from. It's also what motivates me.
I have a question for Kimberly.
Yeah.
What made you want to keep playing hockey after you broke your ankle?
The Olympics is obviously, the biggest stage, and I think it's always been my dream. And I think that even though I knew the road was really difficult, that it was worth it. Even if I was just there to support my team, I knew there was no guarantee that I would play, but I think it's just part of who I am to give it my best. And I think that was the main thing for me, was like, if I had done everything that I could to try to make it back and it didn't work out, then I could live with that, right? And hockey having been my lifelong passion and having stepped away from it for 2 years, I think when I came back, I appreciated it a lot more, and I was a lot more grateful for those opportunities. And so I think you don't realize what you have until you're kind of forced to move on from it. Having taken that and wanting to make the most of it, I just always try to have that mindset of being grateful. I think when you're grateful for the things, for the opportunities that you have, and the experiences you've been able to go through, it really helps you get through a lot of those difficult times. Yes.
Which places do you think is the hardest place to save? Like blocker, glove, or glove?
Can you repeat the question so that?
Yeah. So the question is, what I think is the hardest area to make a save, whether that's glove or the blocker.
One she's not ready for.
Actually, it's so true.
Doesn't matter where you shoot if she's not ready. That's a coach's answer.
That's a very good coach's answer.
What's the hardest shot?
Slap shot.
Is it?
No, any kind of shot is
Any kind of shot.
Yeah.
But I would say for me, the hardest shot to save would be a screen shot or a tip. I think those are very difficult, especially if it's your own defense that are screening you. Thank you, Mel, for never doing that.
I blocked on that.
She blocks them. I guess the one thing Mel always did really well. She's always the one that would block the shots. If she's out there, I'm like, okay, I don't need to do my job anymore. She's going to do it for me.
Try not to get her save percentage too high.
Yeah.
Gotta keep her in check,
Yeah.
How old were you when you realized that you were like a scholarship contender?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I still don't understand why I got a scholarship, to be completely honest, because that was never really a goal of mine. My goal was always, and my parents instilled this in me, was be the best version of yourself, put your best foot forward, and whatever happens, happens. And I was lucky that, I had the opportunity that I was given. I would say I was about 13 years old when my mom was like, okay, so maybe you should get your grades up. So that, if you wanted to go to school, and I didn't have to pay for it, my mom, then like, should probably start thinking about this. But I was very young. I was very, I would say, mentally mature for that. I was like, hockey, like I love it. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna, try my hardest. And then my mom actually did a lot of the work in the background. Like, you need to take the SATs. Okay. And then she drives me and I just go and take them. Like, you need to, talk to your teachers about all this stuff. Like, okay. And I think, again, that's one of those things where I was lucky that I think I had a little bit of natural whatever. I wish I had a coach when I was younger to be like, okay, like, if this is what you want to do, like, you need to start thinking about it in this way. Because I don't think a lot of kids do that. And I also think that too many kids now focus too much on trying to get a scholarship, right? If it happens, it happens. There are only, X amount of spots every year, both at the Division I, Division III, or youth sport level. So if you focus on that and that's what defines your success, if you don't get it, are you not a good hockey player? Right? That shouldn't matter. But short answer, I would say I was like 13, 14. What about you, Kimbo?
Yeah, I would say for me it was kind of similar. Like, I was very lucky that my parents were very proactive in figuring out the recruiting process because it can be complicated. That's fair. So the recruiting process can be a little daunting and complicated. But I know that my mom always emphasized education, and so she made that a strong priority. That the hockey was great, but is really a vehicle to enrich my life and to help me grow as a person, and also provide the opportunity to go to a great university like Princeton. And so,
I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
there's not a chance that I would have been able to go to an Ivy League school without hockey.
I think
Like-
I would have been able to.
Well, I also got into Princeton, but I decided not to go there. So
Yeah, Cornell wanted to recruit me, but I said no. I went to Princeton instead.
that's fine.
It's a
Whatever.
little bit about me. It's fine.
We ended up in the same place.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay, the online question. The first question is, to pursue both excellence in hockey and academic, how do you deal with the challenge of conflicts? Conflicts, challenges, and how do you balance both in high school and in college?
Yeah, I can go first. So I think in high school, for me, I actually prioritized hockey a lot more than school, and I think that a lot of that was because of how competitive it was, especially playing on the boys' side, that I couldn't be just as good as the other goalies. I had to be clearly better, and so I really pushed myself to excel. But when I got to Princeton, it was a very different situation. This is, you're competing against some of the smartest people. Being a student athlete, I have huge time commitments to the hockey team, and so I think the most important thing is instilling good habits early. It's just like anything. If you do it, only a few times, you need to spend a lot more time and effort to really figure out how to get that done efficiently and effectively. But if you're instilling good habits since you're younger, all the way through high school, once you get to college, it's just an extension of what you've been doing this whole time. And so while there's going to be a jump in the course load, in the amount of time you have to put into, your studying and your homework and all that kind of stuff, but it's really just the same thing that you've been doing all the way through high school.
I would say that it needs to be a choice. If you have to decide what's important to you, if you feel like you want to do well in hockey and you want to do well in academics, it is more about the way that you go about life. So I would say similar sentiment to what Kim is saying, but it has to be a choice. If you want to be good at both, it is how do you handle yourself, and what are the processes that you put into place to give you success.
How do you conquer the fear of when the puck comes and hits you?
How do you conquer the fear of when the puck comes and hits you?
Here's a question for you. What hurts more, a bruise or being the person that's at fault for letting a goal in.
Being the person that's not really.
That's how you get over it.
I would say Mel is a lot braver than me since she only has player gear on, and yet she's taking full-on slap shots at point blank. Meanwhile, I have goalie gear on, so.
Who's smarter? I think again, it's a choice, right? It's what kind of person do you want to be, right? Do you want to be a person that your team can count on all the time? All the time, or do you want to be the person that sort of takes the easy way out of a little bit because it hurts. It hurts a little bit, so I'm a little bit scared of it. I don't want to do it, right? It really comes down to your character as a person. That's what I believe, at least. Again, I could be completely wrong, but I've always operated on I don't want to let people down, and I don't want to be the reason that we don't win. And so I will quite literally put my body on the line in any situation. And Kim's seen it, like
many times. I'll just add to that, like, just as a little example, when I first started playing as a goalie, my parents didn't buy me pads. They actually borrowed pads from my spring coach, and he had these super old stand-up style pads, and it only had a thin little foam pad on the inside for the knee, and so they're not meant to go in the butterfly. So here I am, I'm this little goalie out there with these borrowed pads, and I'm going in the butterfly, and my knee is literally smashing into the ice, like directly. Like, it's like I'm coming up against these giant bruises on my knees. And my parents are like, oh my god, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, like, let's go to practice next time. And I'm just like so happy and excited that I had the chance to play and to finally be a goalie. And it didn't matter to me that, like, my knees were literally constantly covered in bruises. I was just happy that I could play, and it was so much fun for me. And I think, like, a lot of times, like, the physical pain, it's temporary. And I think, obviously within reason, listen to your body. But, when you push through that stuff, and it's like, it's the bigger things, like the passion for the game and playing for your teammates and taking pride in your performance. And all of those things really, like, those are the things that are super important and carry you through that, the pain of the puck hitting you, so.
Do you both have anybody like to look up to you? Well, like to look up to, like.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have mentors and role models. And I think what I've always been very fortunate, and something I strive to do a lot, which is why I stick around this one, is always try to surround yourself with people that are better than you and that are smarter than you. Because they're going to always provide you information or different perspectives than what you might be used to. I think it's very easy to stick with people that are similar to you because it's comfortable. And it's way more difficult to be around people that have different perspectives and that challenge you. But those are the people that make you better. So for me, I was very fortunate when I was younger. I had a female coach at a female jamboree when I was younger, because there weren't very many female hockey players playing. So they would put together these jamborees. And she coached me, and she was the first person that made me really, like, believe in myself, I guess. Because up until that point, it was just like I played hockey. I had a bit of a temper when I was bad at things. And she actually had to sit me down, and I was like 7 or 8, and I still remember this. And she's like, and I was really down. I had a really bad shift, and whatever. I was really down on the bench. I'm like, man, I suck at hockey. Like, this sucks. And she came over and she's like, there's so many people that believe in you. You have to make sure that you're one of them. And like, I was like, at that moment, I was like, oh my god, like, I've never even thought about that before, right? And so, she is somebody that I look up to. I look up to Kim. I think she's a phenomenal human being. But yeah, I think, again, they don't have to be older than you. I think it's just they need to make you better.
Yeah, I think for me, it was my dad. Like, he was super involved in my hockey when I was younger, because he had actually been a goalie himself growing up. And so he had a lot of wise advice to give me throughout the years. One of the things that we would always do before games, we had this whole pregame routine. He would always tell me, just focus on the next shot. And that kind of became our mantra before every single game, was just focus on the next shot. And the big thing about that was, I think as a goalie, it's easy to get really down when a goal goes in, right? And you often see that with kids is after the goal goes in, their body language kind of slumps, they're slow getting up, and everyone can see that. The whole team can see that. But what he told me was, your body language is so important to communicating that everyone is looking to you to see, can I trust you in the net? Are we confident with this goalie in the net? And what you want to project is that the message I had in my mind that I wanted to tell everyone in the rink was that puck is not going in the net. And it doesn't matter that, maybe a goal just went in. It doesn't matter because that next one's not going in. And so I used my body language to kind of show that to everyone. I would, hit my post, I would get up and it's like, you got lucky that time because that next one's not going in, And I think a lot of times I've actually had players throughout my career come up to me asking if I'm in the net for that game, for that upcoming game, because they felt confident with me in the net. And I think that, I'm not a very outgoing and loud person in the dressing room a lot of times, but I try to lead more through my actions and my body language and the way I carry myself, especially on the ice, is a big part of that. And so that was one huge thing that I learned from my dad that he talked about a lot. So yeah, I think that's a thing.
How do you deal with negative reinforcements?
What do you mean by negative reinforcements?
People who say you can't make it, you can't make a shot, or say you're not good enough.
I think that's tough. I think it's tough as a young athlete, and I think that's why having a strong mental game is really important and developing that at a young age. So that's something that's actually affected me quite a bit throughout my career because I am very externally motivated. When I was younger in my career, what I did was I was like, okay, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. That was kind of my mindset, and I think that is one way to do it. I wouldn't say that's necessarily the healthiest way to do it. What I learned actually when I was playing pro more so was to develop a mental framework. And basically what that helped me do and what that is to create an inner narrative that is so strong that you don't let anything external affect you. Because it doesn't matter, right? What matters is what you control and how you perform. And if you can shut out those negative thoughts, it's okay to have them, but to recognize how to deal with them and then to step forward through them. I think that helps eliminate any of that external stuff. I didn't play this game. I'm not on the power play. I'm on the fourth line. The coach doesn't like me. This kid says I suck. All of those things are external factors that are outside of your control. And if you let that inside your little mental game, then that's when we start to have issues, right? So as a young athlete, I think that's one of the biggest things to sort of work on to deal with those those critics.
Yeah, and I would say that when, similar to Mel, when I was younger, I was driven a lot by proving people wrong. I think having played boys hockey and constantly having coaches not think that I was good enough, constantly playing, the boy goalie over me and having to prove myself all the time, that was a big part of what drove me. But then later on in my career, I needed to learn how to handle the negativity in a different way. And so one thing that's really helped me is positive affirmations. These are statements that you can either write them down, you can say them to yourself. There are things like for example, for me, what I'll write is I'm quick, I'm on angle, I'm aggressive, things that I want to embody in the game, things that I want to do, things that I think that I do well, positive qualities that I want to emphasize. And so those are things that you can write down, repeat to yourself when you have these negative narratives going on. Because at the end of the day, if you have negative thoughts in your mind, it's very hard to stop that. You really need to have something positive to replace it with, right? Because if you're thinking to yourself I just made a bad play, and you're just constantly that thought is just rattling around your head, but you don't have anything to balance it with. Even if you think to yourself, I need to stop thinking this thought, and then that becomes a negative thought because you're I shouldn't be thinking this thought.
It's a skill though, right? It's something that needs to be practiced. It's not something that you can just do. So
Right.
I think
don't
all
wait.
of these things.
Don't wait until you're in that situation, caught up in the negativity to try to change it. You want to prepare yourself ahead of time. So knowing that those are, it's going to happen, and it happens to everyone. it happens to us, right? Like, this is something that you need to learn how to manage and handle, not just for hockey, in life. And so taking a little bit of time when you're feeling calm and settled to really think about what are the qualities that you think you really value about yourself, things that you want to do, like what am I doing when I'm playing well? Really just writing those things down so that when you get into those situations, you can pull it out and you have it right there and you can read it and go, oh yeah, that's right. You know, like I am good at this. I am able to do that. And that's really what can help you just stop all that, you know, overthinking and negative thoughts. And because a lot of times when people are saying those negative things, we internalize that, like Mel said, and now it becomes thoughts in our own head. So you just have to prepare that list of positive things and thoughts, and you can use that to kind of create a bubble and not let all those whatever's happening outside to affect your mental health.
So, how did you guys take the switch from boys to girls hockey?
So I think my path is a little bit different. I think it's different for goalies, and I also think it's different now. So I didn't have an option to play girls when I did, but I didn't. So yeah, there weren't that many girls playing when I played. So I actually played all the way through to mid AAA. And the first time that I played on a full team for a full year was in college. First time I played girls hockey. So I mean, again, like I had played for TBC on the girls side. I had played, you know, on some affiliate teams and that kind of stuff. But the first full season that I ever played was at Cornell. But again, that was a different time. And again, I'm aging myself a little bit, but it's a different time. You know, like kids would show up, they'd play in the summer, they'd play different sports, and then they'd show up to the rink, and then you play. Kids now, especially the guys, are training every single day. They're lifting, they are doing power skating, they're bigger. I don't know what happened. Everyone is bigger now. You know, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. The game now has changed. And I think the women's game has changed as well. There are more females that are good to create competition on that side. With that being said, you know, I was actually pretty fortunate with the teams that I played on. I got insulated pretty well, I think. I wasn't ever picked on too much or anything. And I had a pretty decent career on the boys' side. But had I had the opportunity to play competitive girls earlier, I think it would have helped a lot for me because it's a different game. On the boys' side, as a player, it's puck movement. It's you got to have your head up because you're going to get blown up. It's, you know, scan the ice quick, that kind of stuff. But you don't really learn the finesse side so much because if you have the puck for too long, it's game over, right? I wish that I would have developed that a little bit more in my game before I went to college. And not only that, I would say the social aspect is totally different too. So making that switch from the guy side, I would say I'm still more on that because I'm here, I want to get better, I love hockey. On the girls' side, there's a little bit more other stuff. And when I went to college, I wasn't ready for that. Like I really wasn't ready for that. I got there and I was like, okay, yeah, we show up, we do our job, you know, we hang out a little bit, and then we're gone. And like that's kind of what I was used to. And it's like, why aren't you being my friend? I was like, I don't get this. Like, this isn't a world that I'm used to. So it was an adjustment, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It just I wasn't prepared for that. So that's sort of my take on that question, I guess. I don't know if it helps you at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a pretty similar experience. I mean, I came a little bit later, so there was a bit more on the girls' side, but I kind of followed my brother's footsteps in playing at PWC and ended up being super competitive. So I played all the way up to major midget on the boys' side, and then I switched to the women's side going to college. And I would say when you're a goalie, it's a little bit more isolating for like playing with the boys and stuff. And so I think for me, when I switched to the girls' side, I struggled a lot with like kind of similar with Mel, like how to integrate into a team in a different way, right? Like
socialize with people.
I think well, it was just all about the hockey and just like it was so competitive. Like I just remember I would do private sessions at like 6 a.m. in the morning, 5:30 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, and I'm like that was normal for me. And that was like how much I pushed myself to get better. And not saying you have to do that, but that was sort of like the mindset that I was in. And so I think I wasn't used to in college a lot of the girls having a much more sort of like, let's have fun and like more casual approach to it, whereas I was like
I
very
think it's
driven.
I think it's different now though, right? I think the game is changing for the female side for the better. I think it's a little bit slower in BC, but I do think it's changing.
Mhm.
And I think it's important that we get that stigma out of like, oh, we have to play boys when we have on the girl side. I think it's going to hopefully become competitive enough that they don't have to play on the girl side. That would be the ideal, right? Because everything is just faster and better and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it's times are changing, and there's a pro league for women now, right? Like it doesn't end at college anymore. You can continue to play and actually make money, like as your job after college. So by the time you come up, it's hopefully more money. But the PWHPA this year is announcing a league in January where the minimum salary is going to be $35,000, and then like the average salary for $55,000, right? So like that's really big positive steps for the girls game.
Could I put in an online question?
Yes.
Online question is how, as a parent, next question for me. The question is how do you help your player to decide taking hockey as a career or using hockey as a vehicle for academic advancement?
I would say, I'd say on the women's side that it kind of goes hand in hand, because ultimately the pathway to a professional career is through the college scene. So really, like when you're younger, you want to focus on the development aspect and just looking at the options for schools, and you have 4 years in college to really see where hockey takes you. And kind of like what Mel was saying before about how the pro leagues things are moving, and it takes time to grow the game, to grow the professional side, but I think year by year they're making strides, and I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities in the future for that, and not to think too far ahead, right? Because you got to take it step by step.
I would say that the best thing you can do for a parent, as a parent, is continuously ask your kids why they want to play and what their motivation is, and support them in those answers, and then guide them to being more curious about their own development. Because if you want to play at the next level, it's not going to come from you as a parent, right? You have to start to educate your kids on, okay, why did you like that coach? What did you learn in practice? How did that practice go for you? And just let them answer, and let them sort of self-discover. And I think that's the best way to support your kid in deciding what they want to do.
I can add a couple as a parent. To me, as a parent, I think for women's side, academic or hockey as a career, the path is the same. You go to college, and then you continue working on hockey, and then you have an option to play pro. Continue to develop your hockey career. But as a boy, as a male, as a boy, nowadays when you are go to college, you have pretty much the same equal chance to go to advance, to go to AHL or WHL, whatever the pro career is.
Yeah.
So me as for parents coming from more academic oriented, it's okay to continue to pursue the academic, like hockey, to be the best you can, and continue to pursue academic, and then you still have your option open after college, go either pro or not.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a wrong answer to that, but I do think that the focus on the result is not necessarily the best process to go through with that, if that makes sense. It shouldn't be, how do I support my kid to make it to the NHL or to go to college or to play at the pro level. The question should more be, how can I support my kid to be the best version of themselves so I give them the best possible chance to get to those things.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be just a little bit of a shift there. But,
does it feel like the same playing with the girls and the boys?
Does it feel the same?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Does it feel the same? Like, is it the same game or
No, like feel your feelings.
my feelings? That's a great question. Yeah. So the question is does it feel the same playing with the boys as it does with the girls? I actually enjoy playing with the girls a little bit more, especially since I've actually played less years on the girls' side than I have on the boys' side in my total life. And the reason why is I think that the friendships that you develop and the way that you can push each other and support each other is a little bit different than when you're a girl playing on the boys' side. And I think long term, that's a little bit more important to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say that a lot of the hockey is really about developing as a person. I think that like now that I'm older, I really prioritize like growing and just learning about like life. And a lot of the relationships that I've built through the last 4 years playing pro are more meaningful to me than the accomplishments or the results that people see looking at the stats, at how we won this championship or those games, because ultimately those are relationships that you're going to carry for life. And I think that playing boys, like that was the best hockey that I could play. And while I don't have any regrets, I do think that if I had played on the girls' side growing up, I would have had a better experience, like been able to make better friendships, and those things are super important. And I think that hockey brings so many opportunities and so many relationships into your life, like mentors and teammates and friends and people you look up to, and they all teach you something about life. And I think that's one thing that I've learned is that it doesn't matter who the person is, that person always has something to teach you, whether they're older than you, younger than you, different than you. Like everyone has something to offer, something to teach you, and it's just a matter of opening your mind and being ready to receive that lesson.
So do you guys have any plan to organize a summer camps or even a team, some of the team?
Yes, we're running some summer programming in July and August.
We're gonna send everything out now that we have your guys' emails. Very, very soon. We have ice times July through August, and all the details will be sent out.
Yep.
We're gonna have different age groups, so
Why did you choose to become a player or a goalie?
I actually started out as a goalie. Yeah, I started out as a goalie because I love the gear and I love blocking shots, and I think it's really cool to be like a person on the ice that can really change the game or like decide that the other team's not going to win. When I was younger, I actually skated pretty well, and I actually skated pretty well, so they pulled me out of the net. And
but you're a goalie for every single other sport that you play.
True. So I play goalie I play goalie as a field hockey player, and I played there at Cornell as well. I'm an All-American in field hockey, and I was on the developmental squad for Team Canada for field hockey. I'm a goalie in soccer. Can't get me out of the net. All of my friends are goalies. My best friend's a goalie. All of my best friends are goalies. So I'm a bit of a goalie at heart. But I chose to play player because I got stuck.
I kind of told my story, but
Yeah.
I was just saying fascinated by the gear and just was obsessed with it because I had to be a goalie. Okay, let's do the raffle. So the prizes are we have hold them up. Hockey card and beautiful photo of yours truly. My hockey card and photo. And whoever wins them, we will sign them for you
If you want.
right here if you want. And we have this Full of Bed Stars t-shirt. So, alright, so
And if they're not here, they don't get the prize.
we need some volunteers to help us. So anyone want to
Come on up.
Alright. Close your eyes.
Don't say your real name. If you say your real name, don't get it.
Okay.